Deep in the frozen forests of North America, the Wendigo roams. This terrifying creature originates from Algonquian folklore and is said to be created when someone breaks a deep cultural taboo. Once human, the Wendigo becomes a tall, emaciated monster with glowing eyes and an insatiable hunger for flesh. It's a creature of greed, winter, and spiritual corruption. Native legends describe it as a warning. When you take more than you need, you become less than human. The Wendigo doesn't just eat, it devours souls. Welcome to the channel. Glad you're here. Today we will meet the terrible spirit of winter and hunger. Be warned though, because if you are greedy like the Wendigo, your soul might be the next thing it feasts on. So let's jump right into today's myth. The Wendigo is an evil spirit that possesses people, turning them into monsters. According to legend, it first appears to its victims as a whisper in the dark, a voice that grows stronger until it drives the person insane. The victim becomes obsessed with thoughts of consuming human flesh and eventually gives in to his or her darkest desires. Once they cross the line of no return, they have become the Wendigo. Although stories about the Wendigo have been around for centuries, the modern conception of the monster was popularized by writers like Algernon Blackwood and, of course, Stephen King. In King's novel The Shining, the Overlook Hotel is haunted by the ghosts of former guests and employees who lost their minds and died violently after being consumed by the Wendigo. One of the most famous depictions of the Wendigo in literature, Jack Torrance is a writer who rents the hotel for the winter so he can work on his novel and spend some quality time with his wife and son. But Jack slowly loses his sanity due to the influence of the Wendigo, and he nearly murders his family before realizing what he had become. In King's story, the Wendigo manifests itself through Jack's dreams, whispering to him and tempting him with visions of blood and flesh. Eventually, the spirit takes over completely, and Jack becomes a shell of his former self, unable to control his actions or the evil thoughts running through his head. So what does the Wendigo symbolize? And why do these stories continue to fascinate us today? For the indigenous tribes of North America, the Wendigo represented a very real danger: starvation. During the harsh winters, food could be scarce, and people were forced to rely on the frozen meat of deer and other animals for sustenance. However, when the temperature dropped below freezing, the meat would freeze solid and become impossible to eat without proper tools or preparation. If people couldn't find a source of heat, they risked freezing to death along with any chance of rescue. If rescued, they might face even worse circumstances, as they would likely be subjected to cannibalism in order to survive. This is where the Wendigo comes in. In some tellings, it was born out of the desperation of those who resorted to eating human flesh. By doing so, they lost their humanity and became the very thing they feared most. This is the origin of the Wendigo's insatiable appetite. It represents the insatiable desire for more, a refusal to be satisfied with what one has. The name Wendigo itself means something that is evil, something that is not of this world. Other names for this creature include the Winter Master and the Great Hunger. These names highlight two of the most important aspects of the beast. First, it's associated with winter, a season of scarcity and hardship. Second, its hunger is relentless. The Wendigo is never satisfied, and it will stop at nothing to get what it wants. The Wendigo is also a creature of greed. It feeds on the selfishness and materialism of humans. When people are driven by their own self-interest, they become vulnerable to the Wendigo's influence. The monster preys on those who take more than they need, who exploit others for personal gain. This is why the Wendigo is often depicted as a skeletal monster, a reminder of how greed can consume us and leave us with nothing. Greed is a common theme in many myths and legends, but the Wendigo's association with this deadly sin is particularly unique. Most depictions of the devil show it as a figure of temptation and luxury, but the Wendigo is more subtle. It whispers to our basest instincts, driving us to commit acts we will later regret. Another reason that the Wendigo continues to fascinate us today is because it represents the darkness that exists within all of us. We all have the potential for great good, but also the capacity for great evil. The Wendigo reminds us that we should never give in to our darkest impulses. If we do, we may never recover. The Wendigo's origins in Algonquian folklore also make it a compelling figure. Unlike many other monsters, the Wendigo wasn't created by some malevolent deity. It's a creature born out of the human condition, a manifestation of our own fears and weaknesses. This makes the Wendigo all the more terrifying, because it shows that we can create our own monsters. The Wendigo is a creature of immense power. Strength is almost supernatural, and it can easily overpower its victims. But the monster's true power lies in its ability to corrupt the human mind. The Wendigo preys on our deepest fears and desires, and it uses these against us. Once it has taken hold of us, there is no escape. Some say that the best way to avoid the Wendigo is to be aware of its presence. If we can recognize the signs of its approach, we can take steps to protect ourselves. Others say that the only way to defeat the Wendigo is with love, compassion, and generosity. These are the antinomies of greed, selfishness, and hate, which are the Wendigo's main sources of power. Whether the Wendigo is a literal monster or a metaphor for the darkness within us all, it remains a powerful symbol of the dangers of greed and selfishness. Its story serves as a reminder to be careful what we wish for and to always remember the importance of humanity and empathy. There are many ways to interpret the meaning of the Wendigo. Ultimately, though, its message is clear. If we allow greed and selfishness to consume us, we will become less than human and risk losing everything that makes us who we are. I hope you enjoyed learning about the Wendigo, the spirit of winter and hunger. Do you believe in the Wendigo? Have you ever seen it in your nightmares? Let me know in the comments below, and if you liked the video, please subscribe. Thanks for watching. Bye.